Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We will start with one another session on this series of lectures. This will be our 9th session. So as you have noticed, we are running a dual session, meaning not only we are picking and selecting verses from the Quran to present, the Taweil of the parables and allegories given in the Quran, but we are also presenting the proof of Imamat from the Quran. And this is our 9th session in this series of lectures. Each section is connected to the previous one. So if you ever have a question, how all this started, I would request and urge you to listen to the previous sessions in this series. And they are all clearly marked the 2024 sessions. With the great name of Allahul Qayyum, the Lord of the earth and the heaven, we start our session 9. What are the principles of the Quran? What is the habit of Allah? What is the command of Allah? And what was left after the Huzur sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for the Ummah? What were the core teaching of Islam? And when I say Islam, the Deen-e-Hanif from the day one. If you would go back to the beginning of the time, you will find that habit of Allah has not changed, nor his way of guidance. He has always have his manifestation, a guide amongst the human in the shape and form of human, a manifestation of Nur-e-Ilahi, a Khalifa, an Imam, sometime in the title of Pegambar, Rasul, Natiqeen, wise men, Arifin. In different times, they were known to the people by different names and title. But what has not changed, and that is the habit of Allah. The core message in the Quran has not changed. As Allah's habit does not change. as He has set that habit on the habit of the human, and human needs, that this is their need. And what is that? Help and guidance. If you look at the child, needs parents. As he grow up, needs teachers. Further, if he is working with somebody, he needs other co-worker, colleagues. If he is a self-employed, as an employer, he needs help of the employees. That portion never goes away. We need some other tools in our lifetime. May it be the human source or technical source, like we need automobile for transportation, but that need does not go away. And then while we are riding in automobile, we need a GPS system to guide us of where we are going. That's the nature, human nature. And Allah has set His habit on human nature. Otherwise, human would be lost without the guidance. But what Allah has promised, that I will send you guide and guidance always. It is not that after Adam, the first Khalifa, he did not send any more guide and guidance. No human and no Muslim can ever say that Allah has not sent multiple, matter of fact, 124,000, not one, 124,000. Why? So human may never be without a guide and without the guidance. Some may ask and argue, wasn't the book of Allah sufficient? If that was the case, there would have been only one single book. But again, that is not the case. We have 4 known and famous accepted book of Allah, the holy books. Whereas Adam may have, Ibrahim may have their own books as well. But regardless of that, we do have 4 known and accepted books of Allah. You see the nature that He guides by the living Nur, the speaking book, along with the written guidance. So those who could not reach or could not read one way or the other would be guided. If there was only a book, then we would never need a teacher. But we see and we accept that when we send our kids to the school with the books, they need teachers to explain, teach, so they may learn and follow. Human nature. Human nature. If that is the case in the physical world, why would there be any different in the spiritual world, which is more permanent, as our soul need guidance forever, a permanent thing. Now, the next few ayat we are about to present, you will clearly see, and this is the answer to your question, young and old. How do we know where is it written and what is the proof? Those are the three common questions amongst the young and old, believers and non-believers, amongst both. Why would it be amongst the believer? Because they like to know and learn. And there is nothing wrong by asking questions. There's nothing wrong by it. At the same time, those who do not know or do not believe. We have selected two very simple ayat from the Qur'an to show where is the wish and will and command of Allah. Who is this wish and will and command is for, and what are they supposed to do? Meaning the guide and the guidance. And in our respective time, this would be for Imam. In the time of prophethood, the same would be true for prophets, Rasuls, Natiqeen, for Arifin. Whomever is the guide to give guidance to human, but he cannot be elected, self-appointed, but must be selected and appointed by Allah Himself. And with the command, the Amr, he guides. Not on his own. So let's look at our first reference, very simple reference. And if you would look at the blue highlighted words, you will see the actual word of the Quran to ensure that the translation is correct. Surah Anbiya, that is Surah 21, ayat number 73. Simply says, and we made them Imams. See, they are not elected and they are not self-appointed. we made them Imams. Please look in your Quran and make sure that I'm just not giving you something to make you happy. That is not the task here. Here, we want you to be well educated and well informed. Look up yourself. Go to this ayat, make sure you find the word Imam. If you do not know Arabic, you may come to a surprise. In the translation, you will find most of the time they would have changed the word. The translators would have changed the word Imam. Do not let anyone misguide you. Do your own search. It's easy. Go to Qur'an.com, find this ayat 2173, and hover over the Arabic part of it. Since you don't know how to read Arabic, it's not a problem. When you hover over it, you will see the word Imam. Then look at the translation. Then you would know how in the translation they have changed the actual word of the Quran, and that is Imam. So we made them Imams, guiding. Haydina. Look at that word. By our command, Amr. Bi Amrina. That's the word you will find. Meaning command or Amr. So Imam are appointed and selected Nuran ala Nur from the time of Adam and will remain selected. And if you were with us previous sessions, we had talked about and have given the reference of Surah Al Imran, Surah number 3, and ayat number 33 and 34, where you could see that Imams are selected progeny after progeny, Nuran ala Nur, one after the other. Do some self-research and educate yourself. So if you have confusion about Imam and the guide of the time, then those doubts could be removed easily. Just do your own search. And with your own research, this is what you're going to find, and we are here to help. And we made them Imams, guiding by our Amr, command. And then we inspired them. The almost same word as Haydina, here the word is Hayyana. And I will explain that in our third slide in about 5-10 minutes. To them, doing of the good, meaning they are here to do good and to teach you good. The word is used is kariyat. and you can look it up on your own. It's easy to find in the Quran. Even if you don't know Arabic, you can find it. You can look at the transliteration or just hover over the Arabic. For the establishment of the Salat and Alam, meaning Zakat. And they were worshipper of us. When I would explain that, I will show you even better language for this ayat. So you can see how the words sometimes in translation are lost or mistranslate. And inshallah, with help and inspiration, we will be able to see that. Second reference ayat is from Surah 32, 24, and 25. Imam's guidance is by our command. Now he does not guide without the Amre Ilahi. He does not guide without Amre Ilahi, meaning Imam, he does not start to guide, nor he gives the farman until and unless he receives the Amr from the previous Imam. Until then, he holds and he waits and he does not guide. When does he guide? When he receives the Amr. So, 2 ayat. When they became steadfast and believed firmly in our ayat, signs, we made Imams from among them, progeny after progeny, guiding, again same word, Hadina, by and through our command, Amr. Indeed, your Rabb will judge between them on the day of resurrection, Yawmul Qiyamah, concerning their differences. And I will explain this part as well. What differences? And what are the concerns? Inshallah, let's come to our first explanation of the 2173. There are 4 easy ways of understanding this ayah. I have found in my study that if you have, or if you just read the ayah superficially, then sometimes what happens, you miss the core messages in the ayah. So what is the good way of doing it? Break it down and read line by line and point by point. And this will help you when you do your own research. Because at the end of the day, you must give some time for personal search. And then you will see how Rabbul Izzat will guide you, and you will be able to see things, and nobody will be able to misguide you. So, we have broke this down in 4 parts. Same ayah. And we made them, we, underline one. Who are these we? not I, we. So Imam of the time, with the command of the Noor-e Ilahi, Amr-e Ilahi, they together, we, made them Imams. So how does a new Imam is selected and appointed? Not by election. We don't do that. They are selected and appointed by the Imam of the time with the command of Rabbul Izzat. And that is the reason the word is used is we. So Noor-e Ilahi and Amr-e Ilahi, we made them Imams guiding by our command, by our Amr. Until they have the Amr, they do not start to guide. Point number one. Number two, we inspired. The word I was drawing your attention to was Wahiyana. Hayana word is the same word as giving life. But same root word of giving inspiration. So we have given them inspiration and we have given them actual, spiritual and intellectual life. Now they are living forever. That's why we have Imam forever. Because they were given the Hayati. Remember in our dua, Hayna Rabbana Bismillah. The same word, Hayna. We give them life. Which life? Not physical. It's spiritual and intellectual on the top of the physical appearance and manifestation. And they are inspired by Kalimae Baritala, Amre Kun, the command. The command is Amre Kun. And now with that, they guide the people because they are spiritually and intellectually inspired by Amre Kun. Amre Ilahi is all same. Third. All right. So second continuous. So we inspired them, inspired to them. So they do good. Here the word was care. The word care. Here, even though loose translation is good deeds, no doubt that is the right translation. But what is hidden in the word care? You know, when we say, आप खेर खैरियत से रहें, meaning आप हमेशा सलामत रहें. When we say care, then you may stay in the care. The word that is hidden between the care is salamati, meaning not they themselves are living, hayna, ever living with salamati. They also are commanded to give you that care which they have received Now they are giving you the same care, salamati, ever living life, spiritual life and intellectual life. Spiritual life and intellectual life. Because that is the ever living Harriet, ever living salamati, ever living life. As the physical is temporary. And they have received Hayna, ever living life. They wanted to share their Harriet, their salamati, their ever living inspiration to you. That is the beauty of being guided by the Imam of the time. You know, your question was, as I said in the beginning, young and old similarly, equally have this question. Why do we need Imam? So they may give you a life, spiritual, ever-living life. How do they do that? By guiding you on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. How do they do that? By their blessing upon you. Their prayers are the salamati for us. Allah says in the Quran, "O Muhammad, take zakat from them, and in return, pray for them. So may Allah bless them." And in the next line, you will see that what is their task. And their task is, and that is point number 3, in this case 3, to give order to ekamat, order, commands, laws, and give order to ekamat. Imam of the time is the only one can tell you what to do and what not to do. That is ekamat. His words are the law of the time. As Prophet's word was the law of the time. A Muslim cannot just pray as he wish without the command, the ekamat, the command and the farman of the Prophet. Just like that, Imam in the time gives the order, and the mu'min must follow that command, that ikam. That is the law of the time. And what is the command? Order? To establish salat and give alams. How many times? How are you going to pray? How much zakat you're going to give? That is given by the commander of the time. And who is the commander of the time? The Imam Zaman. Last week, somebody was asking about Roza and Zakat and Namaz. You follow the Ekamat, Faramain of the Amre Kun, the commander of the time, Imam Zaman. He will tell you what to do in this time and age. And if you not following him, then you are not following the Amre Kun, the command, the Amre Ilahi. No Muslim can say, I am a true Muslim without following what? The ikamat of the Rasul in his respective time. And no Muslim can say, I am a Muslim without following the ikamat of the guide, the commander of the time. In respected time, in this time is Imam Zaman. An Imam does not give you order, ikamat, laws, without the Amr of Ilahi, the command of Allah. And the last one, who are these Imams? They are Abdeen. They are Abdeen. They are the true Amirul Mu'mineen. So we should follow them as they are the Amirul Mu'mineen, the commander, the chief of the Mu'mins of the time. Now, there was one question, would there be Imam or were there Imams always? Even though this ayat has been covered in our previous 8 sessions, but it is okay to repeat if need is there, if somebody has the need to re-listen and re-understand, then this ayat is perfectly aligned with our subject of the day. And this is from Surah Al-Ashrā, which is Surah number 17, ayat 71 to 73. Then Allah will summon every people of every time with their respected Imam. Again, do your own personal search. Find the word Imam. How are they all called by their Imam in their respective time? That tells us the principle that Imams are always and always and always present on this earth. And we will see what our Buzurgan team have said about this. So this is not a new phenomenon. This is not a new understanding. This has been taught in every time, in every age. As the human nature, sometimes we forget. So here, this lesson is repeated. Now, even though Imams are always present and always guiding, and we will be called upon the day of Qiyamah with our respected Imam, you will find some people intentionally they blind themselves, they block, they turn their face about, away from the Imam of the time. So here is the ayat, the next ayat. Those who were blind intentionally to their Imams of the time, in this lifetime, they will be blind and they will be blind hereafter because they intentionally block themselves and did not want to see listen and guided by the Imam. And because they did that intentionally, now Allah is calling them blind, not me and you. Allah is calling them blind. Matter of fact, Allah has called them blind, deaf, and dumb because they intentionally have blocked themselves from the guide and the guidance of the Imam. And they would be even further from the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And why do they do that? What would be their purpose? Just think about that for a second. Why would they blind themselves? Why? Their entire purpose is of the purpose of Iblis, Shaitan. What did Iblis say to Allah? When he refused to follow the command of Allah to submit to Adam, what did he say to Allah? I will sit on the Sirat al-Mustaqim and I will deviate your mu'mineen, the righteous, away from the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And look at this ayat number 73. And their entire purpose was to tempt you, the mu'mineen, away from that which we had revealed unto you. You see, this is their purpose. So who are these people? Whose path are they following? I hope our listener, you and me, are following the command of Allah, not following the wish and the will of Shaitan. And his wish was to deviate the mu'mineen away from the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And look at this ayah, number 73. And their entire purpose was to tempt you away from that which we, meaning Noor-e Ilahi and Amr-e Kun, have revealed to you. To substitute in our name something quite different. And they will swear upon Allah that I'm telling you the truth. They do not want you to do any research on your own. They don't want you to be reading anything. They don't want you to use your rational and intellect. And they will swear upon Allah that I'm telling you the truth. But only thing and only purpose they have is to take you away from the Sirat al-Mustaqim, away from the guide and the guidance which has been selected and put on this earth by Allah Ta'ala himself. And they will call themselves your friend. Believe me, they are not your friend because they are taking you away from Sirat al-Mustaqim. We have two references. One comes from the Hamid al-Din Kirmani. He says about the 1771, the ayah we just read. God has spoken of the day we shall summon all peoples with their Imam. But if in every era and time there was not an Imam on the earth were to be without one, even though people successively come into existence, the statement of God would be a lie, Nozbillah. it is impossible to imagine the words of God are lie, Nazbillah. Thus, it is essential that there be an Imam for every age, in every time, in whose name God summoned his people. Hence, the Imamat is necessary. You see, these books were written hundreds of years ago. It's not a new thing. We just need to do some personal search. There is no doubt that the Imam must exist for the worship of God. Because without him, how would we worship Allah? And that God never leaves his earth, his people, devoid of an Imam in each and every time, who upholds the rights of God and who, as his proof to his servant, is the guidance to his absolute unity. Who will tell us all that? Who represent them to their Lord? Who will represent people toward their Lord? On the day wherein we summon the people through their Imam. The last reference, the resurrection through the Imam of every age. Same ayat, the Arif of our time, it speaks about this. And he says, the Imam of the time, God says, the day when we will summon every people through their Imam, then whoever is given his book, the book of deed, in his right hand, this shall read their book joyfully. They shall read that book joyfully, and they shall not be dealt with even a width of thread unjustly. But whoever is blind intentionally in this life, he shall also be blind in the hereafter, and far away, stray from the Sirat al-Mustaqim. If you reflect carefully upon verse 1771, you is not the resurrection of the resurrections, which is mentioned in this verse, but only the resurrection which takes place in every age. Because in every age, there is an Imam, and the resurrection of the people of that age is linked to him. Thus, when the spiritual resurrection takes place in the personal world of one of the Hudud-e-Din, the Imam is present there in his luminously, and through him the practical particles of the people are invited toward the Qiyamah. And this is taken from Allama Sahib in the Ilmi Bahar, the Spring of Knowledge book, a fresh current book from the page number 14. So here we have displayed and we have explained why Imams are needed, who appoints them, select them, by whose command, Amr Kun, do they guide, why they guide, and what are the result of his guidance for those who would take his guidance. And they will receive the same inspiration hayati, salamati, khairiyat, which will give them a permanent spiritual and intellectual life, inshallah. Let me stop here so we have time for comments and questions.
Thank you, Izzy, sir. Very interesting to see the link between these verses about the first two verses you cited here about the Imams being that it was actually appointed to guide by the God's command, and the promise or the guarantee that there shall always be an Imam, because if one time needed guidance and there needed to be someone who was appointed as Imam, then all times that should not be something which is kept away on the earth. So that interesting to see in 1771 that is also mentioned there, that every time, and it's unique because it doesn't come across immediately unless you sort of think about it, to say if all time, if excuse me, every people is resurrected or called to return with their Imam, then of course there cannot be any time without that Imam. So that's very interesting. So the Q&A is open, the chat is open, and anyone can please type your questions in about these verses or any of the material covered today, or you can raise your Zoom hand so we can call upon you. Aziz, I don't see any. Okay, sorry, there is a question. So can you explain more about the Kere Kathir?
Right. So first word is care, and that is very important underlined word, care. Care is the same word as salamati. Care keresi auje, meaning go with salamati and come back with salamati. The word care, and then kere kasir, because there are three kinds of care and salamati: physical, spiritual, and intellectual. Kere kasir talks about and alludes toward the intellectual salamati, and that is the kasir word, abandoned. That if you have the abundant knowledge and the marifat. The word marifat has two things hidden in it. That is the ilm and the didar both. Meaning the vision, the didar, and the ilm which comes from the didar. Both is hidden in that. So Khair Kasir indirectly talks about abundantly, physically, spiritually, and intellectually. But particularly and especially, it talks about intellectual bounties, ilm and marifat. Because without the marifat, which has two parts, didar and the all of the ilm, kalimai tamat, understanding of the secrets of Allah. That is what Khair Kasir is. G.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next question is, since the nur of all Imams is the same, then why does it say that we will appear with the Imam of our time? Please feel free to correct the question or fix it if I have not articulated it correctly.
What do you mean we will appear with Imam?
From
I'm not
1770,
understanding that part.
yeah, the 1771 that all people are called with their Imam. So if all Imams nur are the same, why would we have to, be called with the Imam of our time?
Oh, okay. Here, the guidance is to make people understand, one, there always be an Imam. If you do not find hold to that Imam, then he will not be able to guide you. And then at the end, you will not have a wali who will be your friend, who will hold your hand to be your wakil and your nasir. That is the reason for here that one, meaning the mu'min, must find and hold to the Imam of their time. Second understanding given in this ayat is just following a Imam of the past is not good enough. Allah, in His most wisdom, knew. He knows the human nature. Look at the people at the time of Huzur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We have the book, we have the guidance, we don't need you. Right? They were the same people who believed in one God and the book of the God. What did they say to Prophet when he came amongst them? We don't need you. What we have is good enough. And Allah knew that we, human, mu'mineen, we will say the same thing. And what happened after that? The very people who followed the Rasul said what? We don't need you, Ali. We have the book and guidance. And what happened after that? Those who followed Ali later on said, we don't need other Imams. And those who followed more Imams after that. What happened then? Here and there, somewhere, they forgot this ayat that we must have Imam of the time in every age. It cannot be in the past only. So here there's a dual meaning and understanding that it is upon the Muslimin to find and hold to the rope of Allah, the Imam of the time, so that he can guide you and he can hold your hand on the day that you die, the Imam of the time. Ji. Join us on this line. Thank you. Ya Ali Madad. Ya Ali Madad.
Malala Aziz, sir. I'll unmute everybody, but of course, from all of us, thank you so much for sharing your time and knowledge and bringing up all these beautiful points for us to understand, even if the questions are not for today, by taking the time to answer them or give us an indication of what's yet to come on this path. So thank you sincerely from all of us, and I will unmute everybody so they can say their Yali Madad.
Yali Madad.
Yali Madad, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Yali
God bless.
Madad.
Yali Madad, sir.
Yali Madad.
Yali Madad.
Yali Madad.
Yali Madad.
Yali Madad.
बहुत सारी दुआएं
बहुत सारी दुआएं
Amin.
मौला
Amin.
हमेशा आपको सुखी